In this lesson, we'll look at a technique for creating a fly-through animation sequence in Max. The intent of the fly-through is to make us feel as if we're flying with an aircraft or traveling with a character through a particular environment. Now, when done right, we can enhance our animation. But if it's done incorrect, where there's too much motion, we can cause our shot to be distracting and really confuse the audience. So we want to make sure that as we do this, we do it in a way where it will not distract and it will not take away from what we're trying to convey in our animation. So in this scene, what we have is a jet flying along a path, and what we'll have is a camera following this aircraft. But we'll do it in a way where we make sure that it's not going to be distracting. And then by the end of the animation, we'll have the jet appear to take off. So the camera's going to follow it for a majority of the shot, but then we'll have the camera kind of pull back as that jet is exiting this environment, so we can get ready to cut to a next shot. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I'll start from the beginning of the animation, and we'll create a free camera. Okay, now that the camera is made, I'm going to go ahead and rename it to ShotCam. I'll go ahead and turn on angle snap, just pressing the A key, and then just rotate this up 90 degrees in the X, rotate it over 90 or negative 90 in the Z, and then move it over so it's going to point at the ship. And again, our goal here is to make sure there's not going to be too much motion, so rather than position and orientation constraining this camera to this jet, we can go ahead and just position constrain it and still get a great result from the fly-through. Alright, so from here what I'd like to do is head over to Views, Viewport Configuration, and underneath Layout, we can go ahead and choose the two-pane layout. Let's go ahead and choose that. That way we can now switch over to our shot camera in one of these views. I'll go to the left panel and switch this to the shot camera. Okay, great. From there, we can go ahead and take this camera and kind of position it so we have this nice angle of our aircraft. We don't want to bring it too close where we can't really see what's going on. We want to bring it close enough where we can still get a good glimpse of the aircraft and still get an idea of the environment that the craft is flying through. Alright, so now that the camera is in place, what we can do from here, let's move over to the perspective, is create a basic camera rig like what we discussed in the previous lesson. We'll go ahead and create a helper, so point helper. Just going to quickly draw that out. I'll press Shift A to quick align it to the ship's control. Go into the modify panel, we can go ahead and make sure that draw on top is turned on, and then we also increase the size of this thing so it's easy to select. So I'll just bring this to about 140, just so your settings match mine. Okay, so now that we have this object centered, we can go ahead and take this camera now and move its pivot right to the pivot of this constraint so that the camera can pivot from this point. So with the camera selected, we can head over to our hierarchy panel, choose Effect Pivot Only, and again we can press Shift A and snap that to the helper, and then we'll turn off Effect Pivot Only. Alright, so now we'll be able to pivot the camera from this spot, which would be a little bit better for us when adding transformation keys to this object. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and take this helper and position constrain it to the ship's control. So with that selected, we'll head over to Animation, Constraints, position constraint and choose the ship's control. No offset should occur because we've already aligned the helper. Alright, so the next step is to go ahead and link this camera now to the helper. So we'll go ahead and take care of that. And again, if we go ahead and select the helper and start to rotate that, we have some nice rotational offsets we can add. Selecting the camera, we can still rotate it and move its position. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how things look in our shot camera. And now notice this, if we were to go ahead and focus on our shot camera and hit play, here's what we end up with. Alright, so we have this nice little animation of our ship going through this little village. Now what I'd like to do is actually pull back the camera because it seems like it's a little bit too close. And again, we always want to turn on safe frames. Let's press Shift F to see what's going to be captured in this view. Alright, so it might be a good idea here to go ahead and take that camera and kind of pull it back just a little bit more. So I'll select the camera and just start to move this back so it's not too close, so we can see what's going on. Okay, great. So that looks good. Excellent. So from here, let's say we go ahead and finish this off by adding that pullback of the camera as the ship exits this scene to create the illusion of it really pulling away from us. So we're following the adventure and then it starts to pull away. And then that's when we'd get ready for our next camera cut at the end of this, where maybe the ship finally gets to its destination. So I'll go ahead and turn on auto key. And then go into the perspective camera. We can go ahead and select the shot camera. And let's say at about frame 133, we'll go there and just set a key. Go into our key filters. We can have everything that we need checked. All right, and then from there, we'll go to the end of the animation and pull this camera back. Kind of over to the side in the y-axis. Okay, so let's see what this does. So the ship is passing, and then there we have it. We have the camera kind of pulling back. I think we could pull it back just a little bit more to really create the illusion of the ship taking off. So I'll go ahead and take the camera and pull it back more in the x-axis and pull it over a little bit more on the y-axis. But I don't want the final shot or the final frame to have leaves in it. So I'll just go ahead and kind of have it subtly pass through the leaves, which will add a really nice effect. And in the last framing of this, we can just see the camera the ship and what it's passed through. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at how things have come together. We can go ahead and hit play. All right, very nice. So again, we've learned a technique for animating a camera along a path. And the important thing to keep in mind with this is that we don't want too much motion. That's a very problematic issue where the camera is animated too much and the audience really doesn't know what's going on. So we want to make sure that we just subtly animate this camera. Consider just moving the position. If you need to add any rotational offsets, do so wisely. Again, to make sure that in the end, you've enhanced your shot, not messed it up or ruined it.